Okay, you can see me now. Test, 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 test. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Okay. Hang on. Hang on. Okay, okay. Can you hear me now? Can you see me now? Is everything working? Holy shit. I don't know why everything is breaking. Yay! I don't know what the hell just happened. Thank you for your patience, guys. So here's what happened. Everything was set up and everything was working. And then I hit I didn't screw up anything, Kino. I didn't screw up anything. Like I everything was set up and everything was working fine. And then as soon as I hit start broadcast, which does the countdown for the actual broadcast, you know what happened? And I'm just like making sure I'm up on Rockfin. Um what happened? Oh gosh darn it. What happened is like everything went black on my screen and I got this message saying that my browser had disconnected from my microphone and my camera, and then just like everything started going wacky, and then I had to restart my computer, and then I got in and I thought I was good and then I wasn't good, and it's just like, oh man, I'm just making sure I'm up on Rockfin, guys. Stand by. Technical difficulties. Nick Incognito, hire Kino. This is not your area of expertise. Well, no, it is my area of expertise, Nick. I have done almost 1,000 streams where I have been absolutely fine and everything worked. And I'm just making sure I'm going live on Rockfin right now. It should be ready to go. It should be ready to go. Hang on, just getting set up. And we're live on Rockfin, and we are live on Odyssey, and we are live on Rumble, and we are live on YouTube. Kino, I would hire you in a second. You know I would if I wanted to have a team. But guys, welcome to the stream a little haphazard today. And again, I do apologize for that. I did not, quite frankly, anticipate my computer going haywire as soon as I hit the start broadcast button, which is always a good time for the computer to go haywire. But we're going to be talking about the one, the only, the illustrious Scott Adams today, because I have to tell you, I have a lot of feelings and a lot of thoughts about Scott Adams getting canceled. So before we dig into it, who has been following along with Scott Adams? Who I think most of you know who Scott Adams is. You probably wouldn't be if you weren't. What you probably wouldn't be watching the stream if you didn't know who he was. Scott Adams is the creator of Dilbert, which is probably one of the all-time greatest comics and commentaries on office and workplace culture ever in the history. Hang on. I'm just messing with my sound. Ever in the history of comics. The man is a genius. He's so smart. He does these streams every single day where he's just talking about his thoughts on the news and the world and all that stuff. And Scott Adams likes to play games with people. He does. He likes to play games. He likes to play games to see if people have been paying attention. He's a hypnotist. He talks extensively about gosh, I'm all disheveled. He talks extensively about like persuasion. He's written some really interesting books. Um and you know what? Scott Adams likes provoking thought and he likes provoking conversations. And well, you could argue that in the past week, Scott Adams said something that was, well, a little bit racist. And I'm going to tell you what that thing was, and we're going to talk about it. If you have not seen it, and I have to admit, when I saw the clip of Scott Adams, I was like, in my head, I was like, bro, what are you doing? You knew exactly what was going to happen. I don't think he anticipated it was going to be as bad as it's been, but I I think that he had a plan. I think that he was trying to make a point. Whether or not the larger public gets the point that Scott Adams was trying to make will remain to be seen. But I think that of all the people in the world to have, a fallout and quite literally a mass cancellation, Scott Adams' comic, Dilbert, has been pulled from every newspaper that it was syndicated in. The organization that was syndicating his comic has canceled him. The organization that publishes his non-Dilbert books has canceled him. He was supposed to have a book coming out later this year. They canceled that. Not only did they cancel that, they canceled his entire back catalog of books. Even his book agent canceled him. Scott Adams did a stream yesterday in his locals, and we're going to watch a little bit of this stream because, quite frankly, Scott Adams was like, I was on the floor laughing with the things that he said in this stream and in a very positive way. But in this stream, he talked about how, yep, I've now been fired as a comic. Literally a mass cancellation. And so we're going to talk about it because I have some feelings about it. And I have some feelings about cancel culture in general that I want to share. And I also want to share what Ben Shapiro said about it yesterday because I am now thoroughly convinced that Ben Shapiro has read my book or he's listened to me in some way. Because wouldn't you know it, what Ben Shapiro said on his show yesterday was eerily similar to things that I wrote about in my book. Eerily similar to things that I've been talking about for a really long time. Maybe he got it from other people. I am certainly not the only person in the universe to express the ideas that Ben Shapiro expressed yesterday. However, the way in which he expressed the ideas is so effing similar to the drum that I have been beating almost every day of my life for over a year and a half that I've got some questions. And listen, at the end of the day, as long as the ideas are spread, I don't really care. I don't care if people give me credit. I don't care about any of these things. I know for an absolute fact he was sent a copy of my book is the thing. I know for an absolute fact he was. Murphy's Pool, thank you for the tip. And yes, this would not be the first time that the Daily Wire has ripped me off without credit. This wouldn't even be the first time that Ben Shapiro has ripped me off without credit. Ben Shapiro covered the Burlington schools. He was one of the people that covered it. Did he credit me or the Unwoke Army for uncovering it? No. But at the end of the day, and I really do mean this, I don't need credit for everything. But if I hear something that sounds really similar to like an entire effing chapter in my book by someone who I know for a fact has my book, I'm just going to give myself a moment to pat myself on the back for that. That's all I'm saying. Naruto says Scott Adams is the hero we didn't know we need. I have to say, I was 50-50 on whether or not I agreed with what Scott Adams did. I don't agree with what he said, to be very, very clear. It is not something that I personally would ever say because I got massively canceled for talking about spirituality and I've learned my fucking lesson. And I also just don't agree with what he said in general. I just flat don't agree with it. So I wouldn't say it. But I also appreciate Scott Adams making the point that he made. And his stream last night, it was, and I only watched the 20-minute preview that's available to his non-locals members. Because I don't pay Scott Adams money to be in his locals. I don't. But I caught like the 20-minute free preview, and what he said in that 20-minute free preview, and we're gonna watch some of it, was so effing hilarious that I was like, fuck it. Scott Adams is a based king. A based king. Kino Review says, in a Ben Shapiro voice, my thoughts are clearly my own, including my browsing history with NordVPN. I'm sure they were. I'm sure little Benny's thoughts were completely and totally his own. But guys, before we get into that, I just want to share a couple quick things with you. Now, as you know, I do have my free Substack, Carlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. and this is my home base for all of my really good content lately. I'm not saying my YouTube's not really good content. I post YouTube stuff on my Substack sometimes, but if you want my really thought out content and to see the unwoke stuff that I'm uncovering, not only in school districts but training programs, just different things going on the internet. I do the most unique unwoke content on the entire internet. I am absolutely convinced of this. I'm not only telling you what's going on, curating it so that you can see the important stuff and ignore the stuff that's not important, to be quite frank. I'm also giving you context. I'm teaching you about how the woke think. I'm working on a new piece in the Woke Mind series right now, all about how the woke want you to feel when they're canceling you and what type of experience they're trying to create for you, the target of the cancel mob. And so I'm working on that right now. That'll be up at some point this week. But I do want to draw your attention to a couple of things. First off, just today, I posted an update. And if you were on the stream yesterday, none of this is going to be a surprise, but the Burlington, Vermont schools have doubled down. They held some community workshops. They're holding another one on March 8th, doing all of the same gender stuff that they've always done before. And I broke down the most important things that you need to know. And if you were on yesterday's stream, none of this will be a surprise, because in yesterday's stream, I actually walked through these slide decks, and it was my original research to write up this here article. So you can catch that right now on the Substack. The other thing that's on the Substack that I want to make sure people are aware of is tomorrow. Tomorrow, March 1st, the big day. I will be opening the classroom to the first round of participants in my Schools Exposed program. Schools Exposed is a program that I crowdfunded for last year. I crowdfunded to be able to give myself the time and the ability and the resources in order to develop a training program to teach people how to do the journalism that I've been doing that uncovers all of these documents that are publicly available in schools all over the country. And my goal with the Schools Exposed program is to get 10,000 parents through the program to teach them how to use publicly available information on school websites, on social media, etc., in order to find out what the schools are teaching their kids. Now, you don't have to be a parent to be in my program. Obviously, I don't have kids, and I do this work because I'm a little masochistic and I like dystopian things, and I find it interesting and I find it fascinating how many publicly available documents you can find on almost any school district website all over the country, in red states and blue states, in cities, in countries, et cetera, et cetera. And in my Schools Exposed program, I'm going to be teaching people how to do exactly what I'm doing. And the goal is to create an army of people who know how to investigate the schools, and to create an entire community of people who are going into these school district websites and looking at these documents and submitting FOIA requests and reading what they're doing and exposing how the schools are integrating woke ideology into their policy and into their curriculum. And a lot of times they're doing it through things that people don't understand, like they're doing it through teacher training, or they're doing it through required courses that administrators have to do, or they're writing it into the school handbook, or they're writing it into the curriculum, or they're creating entire equity plans, or anti-racist plans, or racial justice plans. This is going on in school districts literally all over the country, and they're advertising it on their websites. But the problem is that many of these websites are so complicated and so huge that people don't know where to look. There is legitimately a metric F ton of information on them. So I've created a training program, and I'm going to be letting the first batch of people into it tomorrow to start going through the process that I go through when I'm investigating these school websites. Tomorrow, we're going to be opening the first 3 lessons of the course room. And that's going to get people up to the point where are going to be able to access quite literally a fire hose of information. I call it the fire hose investigation, because when you first go onto a school district's website and you know exactly where to look and you know how to look, you almost instantly start uncovering a metric ton of information. And we're going to start shifting through it and working through it together and bringing organization through it in the Schools Exposed training program. Now, when you sign up for it, what you get is access to my on-demand Schools Exposed classroom. You're going to get on-demand videos. You're going to get access to me in an asynchronous way. So there are ways in the course room where you can ask questions, get clarification, sharing the things that you're finding, getting answers from me. Kind of the course room is basically like a Discord. It's not Discord, but it's a Discord like environment where we can all kind of talk to each other, ask questions, share resources, all that stuff. And it's also going to have access to the course within the program. So that's what you're going to get with it. And this is going to be, once I launch it tomorrow, there's going to be a one time fee of $99 in order to join the program. That's one time. The fee covers my time in dedicating to answering questions, guiding people through stuff, building the course in general, continuing to build out the course. It also goes to fund my Unwoke activism to keep me as a full-time Unwoke activist so I don't have to do other stuff. There will be scholarships available to people who need them. But right now, and Radical Moderate is asking, so we have to sign up today or can we do it tomorrow? You can do it tomorrow. But what is going to happen is that at some point tomorrow, I am going to flip the switch and I'm going to turn off the Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign that I've been the crowdfunding campaign ended last year, but I've had it up so you can still give contributions and you can still get access to perks and things. So up until some point tomorrow, and I think it's going to be in the afternoon sometime, so you're going to have a little bit of a leeway in the morning. I will be turning off the Indiegogo campaign, and right now in the Indiegogo campaign, you can get into the program for $50 as a one-time fee. And there are other perks you can do as well. You can get a scholarship for people, you can get a signed copy of my book, you can get private training with me, you can actually hire me to look into your school district. I got a couple people who've done that. You can even get a hand knit shawl, but tomorrow the Indiegogo is going to be shut down. And from that point forward, the only way into the Schools Exposed program is going to be through the website, which is schoolsexposed.com, and it's going to be a one-time fee of $99, and there will be scholarships available. But in order to get a scholarship, you're going to need to apply for it, and you're going to need to convince me of two things. Number one, that you really do need the money. I'm totally open to helping people who need it. I really am. But the problem is, a lot of people, like $99 for the amount of work that it takes to go into one of these things is not actually that much money. And while I'm totally open to helping people who really need it, a lot of people say they need it and they don't really, they just want a freebie. So I want to be able to suss that out. But number two, and this is actually more important than the money, I want to make sure that everyone in the Schools Exposed program values what they are getting. And I have been running online programs like this for years. I have been running online programs like this for years and years and years. I have run free programs, I have run paid programs. And what I have universally found is that if you are not paying money for something, you don't value it and you don't use it. So that is part of the reason, in addition to wanting to fund my own activism, that I have decided to do a $99 one-time fee to make sure that people value what they are getting. I am literally going to teach you information that you can use to check up on the school districts of your children for the entire time that they're in school. Because I'm not going to ask for a monthly gift. I'm not asking for an annual gift. It is a one-time gift. So I think $99 is actually pretty reasonable for this. I think that is something that parents can come up with. And it helps fund what I'm doing. It helps fund the costs of maintaining the course. And it also makes sure that you're going to be valuing it. So you can head over to the Indiegogo right now. I have it pinned to the top of the chat on YouTube. It is also in the description if you're watching on another platform. And you can get signed up as a part of the Indiegogo campaign up until tomorrow sometime. So you might as well do it today if you know you want to. But tomorrow it is going to transfer over to the proper website, and then it's going to be a $99 one-time fee. But we're going to get started. I'm really, really excited. Have you opened up to people to contribute scholarships? Yes, Michael, that's a great question. You can actually contribute a scholarship through the Indiegogo. So on the Indiegogo campaign, and this was by request. This was my audience requested this. There is an option for $90 that you're going to get access for yourself, and you're going to provide a scholarship for another person. So that is on the Indiegogo as well. And I really did appreciate my audience suggesting that. And a lot and a whole bunch of like we've got already got 6 scholarships. So that's a great start. And I do actually have people lined up kind of in the background to provide more scholarships if we need them. So I'm not going to there's not going to be a shortage of scholarship. I want people to understand that. I have made sure that I've lined up people where if I need scholarships, there will be scholarships available, but I just really want people to, you know, again, when you pay money for something, you value it more. That's just the way it goes. So we're going to be doing that starting tomorrow. I'm really really excited about it. All right, let's dig in. Finally, half an hour later. First thing I want to do is I want to talk about what Scott Adams actually did. And for that, we are going to be looking at an article from my friend Jeff Charles. That's Jeff on the right. Jeff on the right has become one of my absolute favorite commentators on the internet because Jeff on the right doesn't suffer fools and doesn't have time for bullshit. And I think he's extremely smart. I like how liberty oriented he is, and I like his nuanced opinion on subjects. So let's read what Jeff Charles had to say about this. It all started with a poll. After looking at a Rasmussen survey supposedly revealing that almost half of Black American population does not think it's okay for white people to be white, Dilbert creator and political commentator Scott Adams went on a rant that set social media ablaze and likely set a world record for the number of pearls clutched in one day. I have to say that I really wonder if Scott Adams knew what like how big the response was going to be when he went on this rant. I don't know if anyone could have predicted this. Those familiar with Adams' work speculated that he was deliberately poking the bear. He obviously was. Eliciting outrage to prompt a larger conversation. In subsequent broadcasts and an appearance on the social media influencer Hotep Jesus' YouTube channel, the cartoonist clarified his remarks that set the record straight, but likely did not quell most of the hand wringing outrage coming from folks on both the left and the right. If his conversation with Hotep Jesus is Act 3, as Adams indicated, where will this film take us next? Scott Adams drops the bomb. On Wednesday's airing of his podcast, Coffee with Scott Adams, the commentator highlighted a poll published by Rasmussen, which asked respondents if they agreed with the following statement: "It's okay to be white." The survey found that 47% of Black respondents either disagreed with the statement or said they were not sure if they agreed with it, while 53% concurred with the sentiment. Adams seemingly took the result of the poll to mean that 47% of Black Americans did not have a favorable view of white people and intimated that he would be changing his approach to racial matters. And this is what Scott Adams said, one of the things he said. "I've always thought, well, if you help the Black community, that's the biggest lever. You can find the biggest benefit," he said. But then Adams indicated the poll's finding meant African Americans are a hate group. He literally called Black people a hate group. I wouldn't have done that, but okay. And that the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from Black people. The commentator continued, arguing that it makes no sense whatsoever as a white citizen of America to try to help Black citizens anymore, and that it's no longer a rational impulse. And so I'm going to back off from being helpful to Black America because it doesn't seem like it pays off. I've been doing it all my life. The only outcome is I get called a racist. That's the only outcome. It makes no sense to help Black Americans if you're white, the cartoonist concluded. And, well, does this actually have the video? Hang on. Oh, I guess not. The tweet has been deleted. So Scott Adams also said in this clip, he said that white people should purposefully move away from Black areas. And that he actually made a point to say, like, I live in a community where there's not a lot of Black. I was like, oh my God. It was almost as bad. Do you guys remember when we watched Kanye West on Alex Jones? Like, who can forget that? It was almost that level, except it only happened. It was a very quick thing. It was only like a couple of minutes. Let me see if I can find a clip of it real quick. And I apologize. I should have had this pulled up, but as you guys know, my computer just went haywire. But I should be able to find a clip of it real quick if you guys haven't seen this. Stand by. Stand by. Here, we can just go right into this. Here we go. Let me get my sound up. All right, let's listen.
So if nearly half of all blacks are not okay with white people, according to this poll, not according to me, according to this poll, that's a hate group. That's a hate group, and I don't want to have anything to do with them. And I would say, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people. Just get the fuck away. Wherever you have to go, just get away. Because there's no fixing this. This can't be fixed. Right? This can't be fixed. You just have to escape. So that's what I did. I went to a neighborhood where, I have a very low black population. Because unfortunately, there's a high correlation between the density. And this is according to Don Lemon, by the way. So here I'm just quoting Don Lemon when he notes that when he lived in a mostly black neighborhood, there were a bunch of problems that he didn't see in white neighborhoods. So even Don Lemon sees a big difference in your own quality of living based on where you live and who's there. So I think it makes no sense whatsoever as a white citizen of America to try to help black citizens anymore. It doesn't make sense. It's no longer a rational impulse. And so I'm gonna back off from being helpful to black America because it doesn't seem like it pays off. Like I've been doing it all my life, and the only outcome is I get called a racist. That's the only outcome. It makes no sense to help black Americans if you're white. It's over. Don't even think it's worth trying. Totally not trying. And there we go. You didn't expect that today, did you? But those who don't want to focus on education, you just need to get away from them. Just get as much distance as you can. That's my recommendation. And I'm also really sick of seeing video after video of black Americans beating up non-black citizens. I realize it's anecdotal and it doesn't give me a full picture of what's happening. But every damn day I look on social media and there's some black person beating the shit out of some white person. I'm kind of over it. I'm over it. Right? So I quit.
So, some might argue that that was a little bit racist. It was a little bit racist. I personally do not agree with anything that he said. But I'm not someone who watches Scott Adams every day. And that's not a thing against Scott Adams. That's a thing against, like, I don't watch anyone's content. I'm way too busy. I don't have the time for it. But what I do know about Scott Adams is that Scott Adams likes to do shit like this. Scott Adams likes to poke the bear. He likes to be very careful about his phrasing so that when someone doesn't listen to him or they take it out of context, he can then go back and throw it in their faces later. It's kind of like when I got canceled for the tweet that I said Hitler went to heaven, and people are like, Carlin said all the Jews chose to die in the Holocaust, and they were citing a tweet where I didn't even use the word Jew. So they're making claims that I said something about Jews that I literally didn't say because it wasn't about Jews. It was about everyone that has ever lived. But it's kind of the same thing. I was able to say, you fucking idiots. I didn't say anything like that. I apply the same rules to everyone. It's not an anti-Semitic thing. You cannot be Jewish and have this apply to you. That's why I didn't say Jew in the tweet. And I think with Scott Adams, it's kind of like a similar thing in that my thing was not purposeful. My thing was I was in a 2-hour spiritual discussion. I was trolling, and it happened to be when I was clinically depressed. And I said something that got me in trouble, whatever. Scott Adams, though, is purposeful about this stuff. And so I kind of figured that he was trying to make some sort of point, but still, I personally find what he said to be a little disheartening, and I didn't like it. But that doesn't mean I think Scott Adams is a racist. I don't think that Scott Adams is a racist in any way. I think that he was trying to prove a point, and I think it was a boneheaded thing to say to prove a point. But ultimately, might he actually be successful in proving the point he wanted to make? I don't know. Let's keep reading Jeff Charles. It didn't take long for the video clip to go viral on Twitter, and the fallout went as you would have expected. High-profile folks on both the left and the right lashed out at Adams' comments, characterizing them as racist. And after he posted subsequent podcast episodes, further clarifying his comments, critics excoriated him as an anti-black bigot. Then the cancellation campaign commenced. Newspapers across the country pulled the Dilbert comic strip from their publications. USA Today, the Los Angeles Times, and hundreds of others announced they would stop publishing the strip. When asked by a popular Washington newspaper how many papers still carried Dilbert, Adams responded, by Monday, around 0. This is not the first time the cartoonist has been canceled. In fact, leftists have been trying to get his comic strip removed for years, mostly due to his irreverent humor, edgy commentary, and likely because of his support of former President Donald Trump. But what about the poll that Adams seemingly based his conclusion? The Rasmussen survey was already a prominent topic of conversation on social media before Adams even chimed in. But can the survey results be trusted? A cursory glance reveals a glaring problem with the study's findings. Rasmussen notes that it surveyed 1,000 respondents, 13% of whom was Black. That means researchers questioned 130 African Americans, 47% unsure whether they agreed with the statement or outright disagreed with it. That means that about 61 Black respondents were not in agreement with the poll's premise. The notion that this tiny sampling somehow represents the overall African American population seems a bit absurd, doesn't it? Moreover, the phrase, "it's okay to be white," began as something of a clarion call among white supremacists. It was later picked up by ordinary people who were likely unaware of how the trope started. However, many Black folks knew where the phrase originally comes from, which could have also skewed the results. Adams explains his remarks. During his conversation with Hotep Jesus, Adams says he owes the world a clarification. He says, the clarification is this. I am opposed to any form of discrimination against individuals, not your neighbor, not the person applying for a job. You know, marry who you want, date who you want, be friends with who you want. I have no opinion on that, except everyone should be treated as individuals, period. From a constitutional and legal sense, everyone's got to be treated the same, period. Adams also said he's always been in favor of affirmative action, but that he believes the country needs to have a conversation at some point about how to phase it out, because once things get close, you end up having more bad will than positive benefit. This is a sentiment Adams has expressed in the past on his podcast, along with his beliefs, which he has also articulated on Hotep Jesus' channel, that one of the most pernicious ways systemic racism has been used against African Americans is through the educational system. He noted that while there are certain things people can do to avoid poverty, getting quality schooling is one of them. The only thing that doesn't work is that young Black people cannot get a good education because of systemic racism, he explained, also noting that teachers' unions are a systemic racism problem. Guys, do you know what the number one thing that we could do to fix systemic racism now? And I'm not joking about this. The number one thing that we could do to fix systemic racism is to defund the public schools. No joke. I have a t-shirt that says that in my merch shop, if you want to check it out while you're watching the stream. The conversation between Adams and Hotep Jesus covered a variety of topics pertaining mostly to race. In the discussion, Adams acknowledged that he made his incendiary remarks to provoke a conversation on the subject. Indeed, those who have watched his work over the years knows that while Adams is an out-of-the-box thinker, there seems to be a method to his madness that he is known for expressing viewpoints that are out of the ordinary. Nonetheless, Adams knew this would happen. Folks were trying to destroy his career and source of income, which doesn't seem to matter to the cartoonist, as he explains that he expects to retire in the near future. Scott Adams is retiring. And Scott Adams didn't want to go quietly into that good night. Scott Adams, and again, I don't agree with what he said, but it seems to me that Scott Adams wanted to go out with a bang. And it seems to me that he wanted to provoke a conversation based on race, that he had probably done the mental calculation to know, if I do this, it's probably going to cancel me from everything. And if you're going to retire in the near future anyway, and you've already got your finances sorted, and you feel comfortable with that. And by the way, Scott Adams used to be, didn't he used to be like a finance guy. Before he started writing Dilbert and got really successful at that, he used to be a finance guy. So I don't think that he went into this like willy-nilly. I think he knew what was going to happen. Maybe he didn't know how bad it was going to be, but I think he probably guessed. And he did it because he wanted to provoke the conversation. And I got to say, I think it took balls for him to do it. I do. And one of the reasons I think that that's what he did is because I watched a little bit of this here stream from Scott Adams Locals last night, and I just want to watch a little bit of it. And again, we're only going to watch the free portion because I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay. but like, okay, you've got to watch this though, because this is, if it, like, I posted a clip of this on Twitter last night. This is the most hilarious thing that I have seen in a long time. Like, get ready to laugh, guys, honestly, because like this is like what Scott Adams did on this stream is like next level. Scott Adams is a based king based off this. I don't even care if I disagree with what he said. I don't care, because ultimately I don't think Scott Adams is a racist. I think Scott Adams had had enough. I think he wanted to say what he wanted to say. And we're going to watch this stream, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, hopefully it's still queued up to where I left it.
So the funny thing is, I'm getting fired as a cartoonist just when, all art is probably going to be replaced. As your BP. So I had to switch to decaf. So the thing that's hard to explain is that while there's part of this that's awful, there's part of it that's beautiful. And you don't get to see the beautiful part. But mostly it's people contacting me, personally. The beautiful part is more beautiful than just about anything you've ever seen. The ugly part is uglier than just about anything you've ever seen that doesn't involve violence or something.
Yes, that is a bong. It is. Wait for it.
So I'm in sort of a flight or fight mode all the time. My just metabolism is through the roof because I want to be at my sharpest, moment in case I need to. Because I'm kind of in a dog fight. You can see that, right?
I just want to pause there, and I want to say, like, I totally identify with what Scott Adams said when he says he's in fight or flight all the time, because that was where I was at basically all last year. I was in fight or flight almost constantly for an entire year. So I completely understand where he's at there, and it's not a fun place to be. And I'm actually really impressed that Scott Adams has the presence of mind that he does, probably because he's a lot older and he's had more experience at this, and he's been on the internet for a lot longer than me and like a public person. But like to be in a fight or flight state is you're basically going to be able to be provoked extremely easily. And so I'm really impressed with how he's composing himself, but that's not what I wanted to talk about. Okay, let's keep going.
Like on Twitter, you can see him right in the middle of a dogfight. So I want to make sure I'm sharp. So speaking of sharp, anybody want to do a bong? I mean, even look at the comments. I've never had more positive comments than when I went on a racist rant. And you know what's funny? I think people are going to start making a distinction between the racist rant and the racist, meaning that I'm obviously not a racist. I think everybody knows that. I think even the people who are canceling me, they all know I'm not a racist. 100% of them are sure I'm not, but they can't take the heat. So what are you going to do? But here's what's
I wanna just pause because that's the point I want to talk about once this is over. Because what he just said is like he's getting all this positive feedback, he's getting text messages, he's getting all this communication from people who know him, who know he's not a racist. They know it, but they're not willing to say it publicly because they're not willing to stand up to the heat. And I want to talk about that when this clip is over, but we're going to enjoy this clip and then I'm going to make the point that I want to make, but I just want everyone to keep that in their back pocket.
true. Anytime you correct racism, it's racist. Think about that. Anything you do to correct racism is racist. And it can't not be, because what you're doing is changing the balance of power or resources from where it is, where you didn't want it, the racist part, to where you want it, which is racist, because it's literally making decisions based on race. So at some point, the people in the media are going to be slowly red pilled to realize that I made a racist rant correct, but I'm not a racist. And once they figure out how that both can be true, and also how they figure out that I could like all individual black people, and always have, I get along great with black people, always have. It's like this one thing I can guarantee. Mostly men, the women as well, but yeah, we're private. Women as well, but black men respond to me better than like anybody for some reason. I have
So I don't think he actually meant to make this public. Cuz he just said on the stream, "Yeah, we're private." And I've seen other streams in his locals where he goes private much sooner than this. I think that this was a mistake, but goddamn, am I like thrilled that Scott Adams made this mistake because what is about to happen is goddamn hilarious.
a theory about that. Would you like to hear my racist theory? Black men, let me not do the universal. Not every single one. I don't mean every single one. I think I'll make that my catchphrase. My catchphrase will be talking like I'm slow and say, I don't mean everyone, not everyone in the group, not everyone. I'll just say that until it's like really annoying. But anyway, black men have a good sense of humor. Racist, right? Because I'm, making a distinction by race. But that's been my experience is I get along great. Anybody with a sense of humor I get along with. What? All right. Oh, I want to see that comment. Leah Thomas, what? Has proved one thing for sure. This is a man's world. Oh, Leah Thomas. Does the water in the bong really do anything? It does. Yeah, that's why you have to change it. Dope is not a good look. Yeah. I'd hate for my reputation to be ruined. Hey, good luck managing your reputations, motherfuckers. I don't have that problem anymore. Good luck, all of you, managing your reputations. Is it hard? What's it like? Managing a reputation. Damn it. Ah.
Tell me that's not the funniest shit you've seen on the internet yet this year. Scott Adams being I wouldn't want to fuck up my reputation. And for that, I have to say, Scott Adams is a based king. I think he planned the entire thing. I think he wanted to be canceled. I think he knows that he's worth about $11 bajillion. Scott Adams is like very, very wealthy. Okay. He is worth bajillions of dollars. He does not need money. It's fine. And so, you know what? Now, Scott Adams gets to say whatever he wants for the rest of his life, and there is nothing that anyone can do to stop him. Scott Adams just made himself unfucking cancelable. Because he got canceled from everything. He got canceled from fucking everything. And I don't know if he meant to do that, but that level of freedom is an absolute gift. Come on. We all kind of want to be Scott Adams. Again, I don't agree with what he said. I don't co-sign that shit. But the outcome of it, sometimes things work out in mysterious ways. Mama Tembo, oh my god, he said shit while doing rips. Is this real life? What timeline did I wake up in? Just when I thought the descent into dystopia was getting chill. I mean, come on. I saw that last night around 3 a.m. and I was on the floor losing it. I thought it was so good. So good. So I guess I wanted to show you that because I think that that's proof that Scott Adams is honestly just going to be fine. He's going to be fine. He knows what he's doing. He obviously is feeling pretty good, all things considered. But another reason I wanted to show that, and I'm gonna pontificate for a second, and then we're gonna watch Ben Shapiro. All right. So we do still have Ben Shapiro coming up, but I want to pontificate on what Scott Adams said. Excuse me. I want to pontificate on what Scott Adams said in regards to he's been getting all this positive feedback. Like, people know he's not a racist. He's been getting these nice messages. Like, he's never gotten so much nice feedback as when he went on a racist rant, all this stuff. And then he said, but people are not willing to say it publicly because they don't want the heat. What are you going to do? And this was kind of like eerily similar to a conversation I had last night in my locals community where we do if you're a supporter on locals or on Patreon or on Substack, you get access to 2 community Zoom calls that I do every single week. We do them on Mondays and Wednesdays. And late last night on the Monday call, we were talking about cancel culture and and we were kind of joking and laughing. And I don't have any bad feelings towards anyone on the call. I want to say that for people who are there. I'm not going to name names or anything. But one of the people on the call, like we were joking and basically like one of the people on the call wanted me to like provoke Chrissy Mayer into bullshit. And I was joking that, oh yeah, I should do that because Chrissy Mayer is like a bimbo, whatever. But then another person spoke up and said, Carlin, it puts all of us in like an awkward position when, that when activists are like fighting each other and doing all this sort of stuff. And I was like, you know, I've been attacked and canceled for 2 straight years by these people. Cancel culture is a real thing, but it's not just one-offs like what happened to Scott Adams. For some of us, and I know I'm not the only one that this happens to, I have been mobbed over and over and over and over again by people claiming to be anti-woke, because I don't get canceled from the left, I get canceled from the right repeatedly. And when I'm not being mobbed by thousands and thousands of people, what happens is I'm harassed openly every single day of my life, and I have been for the past 2 years. These people have tried to destroy my marriage. These people have doxed my friends. These people have quite literally deplatformed me. These people deplatformed my school's exposed program. These are people claiming to be anti-woke. They got me canceled off of Kickstarter. They were bragging about it. These people also got me deplatformed off of Twitter after mass reporting me, claiming to be anti-woke. These people smear me almost every day of my life. These people make memes of me where they basically position me as like a 400-pound woman, which I'm not, by the way, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is quite literally every day of my life. And I've gotten to a place where I'm pretty used to it right now, but it really took a toll on me last year. For about a year and a half, I was extremely depressed. To the point where I wasn't getting out of bed, to the point where I was breaking down, to the point where I almost quit, all because I was being constantly harassed by people claiming to be anti-woke. Why do they do it? Because they're jealous that I have a bigger platform than they do and I'm more effective than they are, is what I think. Because all of the people doing this are absolute losers. They're absolute losers that accomplish nothing and do nothing. But those aren't the people I want to talk about. Because those people are losers and ridiculous and will never accomplish anything in life. What I want to talk about are the people watching. Because I understand what it's like to be openly harassed every single day of my life and to have a lot of people watching it and a lot of people knowing it's wrong and then not doing anything about it. And not only not doing anything about it, but actually coming to me on the rare occasions where I stand up and try to defend myself from this. And they come to me and treat me as though I'm the problem. When they're watching a mob of people openly harass and smear me every day. And every once in a while, I speak up and I say, this is bullshit. These people are insane. And then I'm the one that the people that are looking on come to. They say, Carlin, you're making me feel really uncomfortable. And I just don't want to be put in the middle of this. And I don't know why you have to talk about these people. And can't you just focus on the work that you're doing? And they're doing it in the midst of me, quite frankly, doing more than most people on the internet combined. I've been doing some math lately. I have broken more anti-woke stories than almost anyone on the internet. I'm not a journalist. I broke the biggest anti-woke story of all time with the Coke Be Less White story. That story got over 30 million views on Twitter alone. I broke that. I broke the Burlington Schools story in conjunction with the people in my community that helped me do the research, because that wasn't all just me. I have broken I broke the story. I broke the story that became the first ever lawsuit against CRT in public schools. I was the one who broke that before it was a lawsuit. I was the first one to talk about it. I have a list a mile long of stories that I've broken that have gained national media attention, and a lot that haven't, but that were stories that should have had attention and that weren't talked about anywhere else. I was the one that broke the story that launched Chris Rufo's career in the anti-woke space. I was the one who broke the story about the segregated training in Seattle. That was the story that Chris Rufo picked up on and followed up on And that was how he got involved in the anti-CRT space. And I'm not saying any of this to brag, because I don't really feel the need to get credit for this stuff a lot of the times. But that's reality. I have done more than almost anyone. I probably am in the top 5 people of all people who are doing journalism in this space to break new and original stories that are not reported anywhere else. I don't copy shit from the Daily Wire. I don't copy shit from the Blaze. I don't copy shit from the Post Millennial. If anything, they are the ones that copy shit from me. And in the midst of this, I have been attacked and harassed almost every single minute of the last 2 years by people in the so-called anti-woke space. And while that's been happening, not only have I been breaking these news stories, but I've developed the Schools Exposed program. I've launched the Unwoke art, store that I'm now selling Unwoke art. I've written a book about how to fight back against the woke left. I have recorded about over 30 podcasts that are freely available about how to fight back against the woke left. I have built a community of people who are dedicated to fighting back against the woke left. I do this all day, almost every day of the week. And while this is happening, and while I am being more productive than almost any other person in the space, and while I am constantly and perpetually harassed by a mob of people, I have another mob of people over here. And this is the mob of people who are watching what's happening to me, being harassed almost every day of my life, not doing a goddamn thing to stop it, not speaking up and say, stop what you're doing, this is wrong. No, they don't do any of that. What they do is they come to me and they complain anytime I defend myself. And this is the real problem that I have. Because I knew, being in this space, that I was going to get canceled. I knew that. I had prepared for that. I don't think I prepared for how badly it was going to hit me. And let me tell you, it does change you. When you are canceled repeatedly over a time span of a couple of years, repeatedly, it changes you. I'm a fundamentally different person now than I was 2 years ago. I have lost a lot of empathy that I had 2 years ago because of the harassment that I've experienced. But the people that today I have the least amount of empathy for are the people who claim to be against woke culture and are too cowardly to stand up when it's happening to someone who is actually doing more than most people to fight back against it. Scott Adams talked about this in that video. He said that, he's been getting all these nice private messages from people, but they just won't speak up when it matters. That is universally true. I've been called an anti-Semite up and down the internet. Ironically, by the actual anti-Semites on Gab, the actual neo-Nazis that I've gone after when no one else did, they call me a Jew. But the rest of the internet's call me an anti-Semite over and over and over again when I was the one that exposed the neo-Nazis trying to co-opt the anti-CRT movement. No one else did that. That was me. And so I look at all these people who are watching this happen and who do nothing but complain on the rare occasion when I defend myself, and I say, you are a fucking coward. I look at all these people who are sending Scott Adams nice messages because they know he's not a racist, and they're watching him get canceled up and down, losing his entire thing, and he may well have planned it, and that's fine. But I look at those people who know what's happening is wrong, and I say, you are a fucking coward. If you claim to be against woke culture, and you claim to be against cancel culture, and you sit back when it's happening to someone that is actually doing things that are productive, and you do nothing, and you don't speak up because you don't want the mob to come for you, you are a fucking coward. And I gotta tell you, I think that the last month of watching this stuff with Eliza Blue play out has been really, really, really educational. Because I now know for a fact that that the fact that they weren't speaking up had nothing to do with me. That was actually a question in my mind before. When people weren't standing up and trying to defend me from being attacked by this mob, I thought, am I really that much of a bitch? I don't think I am. But maybe other people do. Maybe other people really think I'm that much of a bitch and I don't deserve to be defended, even though I've done more than almost any other person in this fucking space to expose what's going on. So I really thought that maybe I deserved it. But then I saw what happened with Eliza Blue, and I saw exactly the same people. Exactly the same people who should have known better. Exactly the same people who do have platforms. Either do nothing, say nothing, or actively go after her. And it was really clarifying to me. Because I think it showed me that it wasn't about me personally. It was just that these people are fucking cowards. They are cowards who are more interested in money and status than they are in doing the right thing. And they only claim to be against woke culture and against cancel culture because it helps them make money and it helps them maintain their status. And that is it. But when push comes to shove, will they act in accordance with those principles? No, they will not. And they've now shown it to us over and over and over and over and over and over again. These people are cowards. And they don't speak up because they don't want the mob to come for them. But what they don't understand is that the mob will come for them. And because they haven't spoken up, no one's going to be there when they need it. No one's going to be there. I don't speak up for anyone anymore. You want to know why? Except for people who have been there for me. I will always have the back of people who've been there for me. But I've been raked over the coals 19 ways from Sunday for no good reason other than some insane, unhinged lunatics are jealous that I have more subscribers than they do. I have had my family torn apart. I have lost friends, real friends, because they've been doxxed. I have had my community harassed. I have had everyone who openly supports my content harassed. All because these people are jealous that I have more subscribers than they do. And I had all that happen. And so much more that I'm not going to list now. And I've had people watching the entire time, and they're more concerned about not having their fucking feelings hurt. Oh, Carlin, I just don't make me choose, and I just feel like I'm in the middle of things, and I don't want to feel like I'm in the middle of it. Can't you just shut up and just take it? And like, you know what? It's easy to say that when you're not the one that's being harassed every single fucking day. You fucking coward. I have no patience for these people anymore. Absolutely none. If you sit back and watch a cancel mob go after someone who didn't do anything wrong, except possibly say some words that offended your fragile sensibilities, then you are a coward. I don't agree with what Scott Adams said. I don't like that he said it. I think it was unnecessary. But I would never campaign to cancel him. And I would never watch a cancel mob go after someone who I respect, who has done good work, who has taught a lot of people, who has been a really valuable voice, without saying that cancel culture is wrong, what you're doing is wrong, and if you are against cancel culture and if you're not saying something, you are a coward. I got my start in the anti-woke space in 2019. in September 2019. Let me show you what I did. Hang on, I can show you really quickly. I just need to get it pulled up. We will go over to my Substack where I actually document the bullying. This is the only place that I've documented the bullying. I actually even haven't documented all of it, but there's enough here to get us started. Let me get into my archive of Surviving Carrie Smith. This is survivingcarriesmith.substack.com. And I want to go here. Because one of the things they did is they claimed that I lied about my red pill journey. They spread all over the internet that I was lying about my red pill journey. Well, guess what? I have all the receipts because I post everything on the internet. On October 5th, 2019, in the midst of the knitting wars on Twitter, or not Twitter, excuse me, on Instagram, this is when, for those who don't know, I came from the knitting community that went woke, and these woke knitters were going around trying to destroy everyone. I watched this happen. I watched businesses be destroyed. I watched one man go into the hospital on suicide watch because he was so mobbed and attacked by people in the knitting community. What you're seeing here is the first time that I ever stood up and said something against the mob. And I didn't have to. I was just a knitter, man. I didn't know any of these people. I was just a woman who used Instagram to look at yarn and to look at projects. And I saw the knitting community eating itself. And I decided to say something, to say that it was wrong. And what I did was I posted this image on, you can see the date, October 5th, 2019. And this is live on Instagram, by the way. Let me put it in the chat. And I said, bullying is when someone is targeted for isolation, humiliation, and aggression when they don't have the ability to defend themselves. That was all I did. And let me read what I wrote. What I wrote is like a little bit woke. I said, bullying is never right, and it never leads to progress or justice or fairness or any of those noble aims. And I know there are so many people in the community. I know there are so many people who feel this way in the community, but are terrified to say something because of the potential repercussions. If you don't stand up and say it, you can never change it. I'm just an average person with not too many followers. And so who knows if people will ever see it, but it doesn't matter. Expression is a gift, and at least I can express this without fear of my ability to support myself and my family being destroyed in the process. And I wish others would stand up and say it too. I'm sorry that I didn't sooner. And I got all sorts of comments yelling at me. All because I said that bullying is when someone is targeted for humiliation, isolation, and aggression when they don't have the ability to defend themselves. When I had nothing, I stood up against the mob, even though I didn't know any of the people involved. Because I wanted to set an example of someone who stands up against a mob. Yeah. Who knows who will see this aged well? It did, didn't it? And I'm nothing special. I'm nothing unique. Anyone can do this. The problem is that not enough people are doing it because people are afraid and they think the mob's going to come for them when they speak up, and they will. The mob that came for Eliza Blue has been coming at me for the last week because I spoke up and I said I believed Eliza Blue. So now they're coming for me. I actually wrote about it because I knew they were going to come for me because they told me they were going to come for me. They flat told me they were going to come for me. All because I stood up and I said that Eliza Blue told the truth. And I do still believe that. So, when I see things like people with platforms that can stand up and damn well say something, and they choose not to, or they want to get in my ear and complain about me defending myself against a mob of people that they have watched attack and harass me and everyone I love for 2 fucking years? And they want to complain that I'm daring to defend myself as though I'm the problem? I say you are a fucking coward. I stood up for people I didn't even know 3 years ago. Over 3 years ago now. I didn't have anything to gain by that when I did it, and I did it because it was the right thing to do. So don't fucking ever tell me that you care about cancel culture and you care about stopping woke culture when you are unwilling to do the bare minimum and stand up when people are being attacked by a woke cancel mob for no good reason. If you do not stand up and say something, you are a coward, and I don't care how you feel about me defending myself from a mob that's been harassing me for 2 years because people in the so-called anti-woke space are too fucking cowardly to stand up and say anything. That's all I have to say about that. That's all I have to say. And now I want to look at a couple other things. I want to look at an article from MSNBC because it makes me laugh. This is hilarious. And then we're going to go and watch the Ben Shapiro clip where he basically proves that he has absolutely been reading my book. Guys, please go ahead and mount that like button for me if you have not already. I would appreciate it. This is from MSNBC. Dilbert deservedly gets canceled, but there's more blame to spread around. Dilbert cartoonist Scott Adams has just learned that being canceled is more than just figurative. Multiple newspapers and the cartoonist syndicate dropped his comic strip after Adams went full David Duke on us, and in a recent episode of his YouTube Real Coffee with Scott Adams, called Black people a hate group that white people need to get the hell away from. We are not a home for those who espouse racism, Chris Quinn, editor of The Plain Dealer of Cleveland, wrote in a letter to readers. We certainly do not want to provide them with financial support. Other newspapers use similar language in explaining their decision to ditch Dilbert. The San Antonio Express News is dropping it because of hateful and discriminatory public comments by its creator. And the Los Angeles Times cited Scott Adams' racist comments. Andrew McNeil Universal, the syndicate that had been distributing his cartoon to those newspapers, has also dumped Dilbert. But this is where hang on. This is where I just burst out laughing when I saw this on Twitter earlier. Check this out. Adams deserves every cancellation he gets, but he's not alone in deserving our I don't know what that word is. Our scorn. I might have made the specific, or he might not have made, excuse me. He might not have made the specific see, I almost said the specific anti-racist remarks, which is ironic because apparently in my brain, I've conflated racism and anti-racism, which is not an accident. Anyway, one more time. He might not have made the specific racist remarks he made, but for Rasmussen reports, which smack dab in the middle of Black History Month decided to ask a pair of questions more befitting of Confederate Heritage Month. Rasmussen Report pollsters asked 1,000 people to agree or disagree with two statements. It's okay to be white, and Black people can be racist too. Nothing good was ever going to come from those questions, and it was irresponsible and incendiary for Rasmussen to use those questions and only those questions in a survey. Check this out. MSNBC is actually going, yeah, Scott Adams is bad. But you know who the real monster is? Rasmussen. How dare Rasmussen ask those questions in the first place during Black History Month? Apparently, polling questions are now violence. We are not allowed to ask people polling questions about their attitudes, according to MSNBC. In promoting its poll results, which depressingly found that most Americans think black people can be racist. Check this out. MSNBC is very depressed at the notion that most people said that black people could be racist. In promoting its poll results, which depressingly found that Americans think black people can be racist, Rasmussen reports used the headline, "Not woke yet. Most voters reject anti-white beliefs." Get it? To be woke is to be anti-white. And by the way, guys, we don't use this language on the channel. I'm only using it because it's right in the essay. We do not use this language on the channel because it comes from very bad people, which MSNBC should damn well effing know. But alas, no polling organization would make such an assertion should be given any attention when it attempts to analyze American race relations. So I just wanted to read you that because apparently canceling Scott Adams is not enough for MSNBC. We now have to cancel Rasmussen for daring to ask the questions in the first place. What a time to be alive. But Ben Shapiro seems to agree with me. He does. Now, we're going to watch a clip from Ben Shapiro's show yesterday, and I want to say this. I don't agree with everything that Ben Shapiro says in this clip, and I'm going to do a little commentary over it. But what I really found, personally satisfying is I don't know for sure that Ben Shapiro read my book. I don't know it for sure. I do absolutely know that he was sent a copy of my book by my publisher. I do absolutely know that there were talks about having me on his show at some point that didn't end up going anywhere, and I'm not exactly upset about that if I'm honest about it. So I know there was communication. But what I find a little bit, just maybe it's pure coincidence, is that in this clip where Ben Shapiro is talking about Scott Adams being canceled, he says some things that, quite frankly, sound like they came directly out of my book. He doesn't mention me. He doesn't mention my book. But I think that regular viewers of my channel will be able to hear exactly and precisely what I'm talking about. So let's watch this clip. And I'm going to do some commentary over it.
So the first big controversy was Scott Adams. So Scott Adams, who is the creator of Dilbert, he had an unfortunate clip that went viral because he was talking about a poll from Rasmussen. And this poll from Rasmussen is super disturbing. The poll from Rasmussen polled Americans on the question of, quote, "It's okay to be white." Is it okay to be white? 72% of Americans agree that it's okay to be white. 12% disagree. 69% of Democrats agree and 12% disagree. But among Black Americans, 53% agree that it's okay to be white. 26% disagree. 21% not sure. So only a bare majority of Black Americans, according to Rasmussen, think it's, quote, okay to be white. Now, there are a couple of reads on that poll. Right? One is that people are not actually listening to the poll question. They're hearing that as a slogan. And so they're hearing that as a responsive slogan that is sort of racist in intent. Now, again, I think that they're divining too much in the question. It's okay to be white. But that is a plausible read. That people see here, it's okay to be white. What they are thinking is it's superior to be white. Okay, fine. That is the kind read. Bottom line, though, is if those poll numbers are representative, at least a quarter of Black Americans think it's not okay to be white, right? That would be the actual converse of it's okay to be white, which is disturbing. Because if you had 26% of white Americans saying it's not okay to be Black, that would be incredibly disturbing and super problematic. And it would spell, some real problems in our republic. So Scott Adams decided to go off on it, but the way that he went off on it was in the dumbest possible way. So here was Scott Adams talking about this.
So if nearly half of all Blacks are not okay with white people, according to this poll, not according to me, according to this poll, that's a hate group. That's a hate group. And I don't want to have anything to do with them. And I would say, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from Black people. Just get the away. Wherever you have to go, just get away.
So that's really terrible. That's a really terrible racist thing to say, that based on this poll, you should just run away from all black people. Now, here is the thing. Here's the thing. You can agree with that. Also, agree with that's a terrible racist thing to say. Also, if you replaced every word that says black in that sentence with white in that sentence, the mainstream media will not only cheer you, they will give you an op-ed slot at the New York Times.
So I want to pause because this is not the section I'm talking about. I'm playing this section for context, but I want to be very clear. I do not like this thing that conservatives do, where they're like, if you just replaced white with black or black with white, you would see it like it would be. So if you just replaced what Scott Adams said with like black people saying that about white people, it would be totally fine. I'm not saying he doesn't have a point, because it is true, right? It is. However, I don't think it's the strongest argument for conservatives to make, because I think it makes them look effing racist. I do. I'm sorry. You are allowed to disagree with me on this issue. It really rubs me the wrong way. I think it feels very toxic. I think it feels very low energy. And again, I'm saying that, acknowledging that there is truth to the statement. I just think there are much better ways to attack the subject matter. And I don't like it when white people, quite frankly, paint themselves as the poor, oppressed victims of the world. Because, to be quite frank, critical race theory says that white people are the most powerful people in the world and that black people have no power at all. If there's anything that critical race theory is against, it's black people. It's not against white people. It is against black people. If you had to choose between being the most powerful person in the room or the least powerful person in the room, you would choose being the most powerful person in the room, probably. That, like, white people are not oppressed in our society. White people are not victims in our society. I'm sorry. I know people disagree with me on this, but it really irks me when people make this argument. I don't like it. I think to Joshua's point, I think it's pro-division. I think it just keeps us fighting with each other. I don't think that racism against white people is any different than racism against black people. I think all racism is racism. It's all bad. So with all that said, I'm going to play what Ben Shapiro said, just with the acknowledgement that I don't agree with this particular section, but there's going to be a section after it that I do agree with, that I'm pretty sure he got from my book or my writing somewhere. So that's it. Let's listen.
Herein lies a major problem in American society. We'll get to that major problem momentarily. First, simple fact of the matter, 100%, facts don't care about your feelings, 100% of people are going to die. I know, that includes you.
We are not listening to your ad, Ben. Sorry.
Racist. Right, which is, he says that that poll shows that black people are a hate group, seems to be what he is saying there. Right, that seems to be what he is saying, that there's a poll and it shows that only 53% of black Americans think it's okay to be white, which means 47% of black Americans think it's not okay to be white. And so there's a direct quote, if nearly half of all blacks are not okay with white people, according to this poll, that's a hate group. That's a hate group. I don't want anything to do with them. And just to clarify, he continued along these lines, and he suggested that you should then avoid black people, right? You should live as far away from them as humanly possible. You should move in order to avoid black people. Okay, so that is what he is saying. So now we're going to play a quick game of reverse the races. Okay, this quick game is useful because, as we'll discuss in just a moment, the left is totally fine with racism so long as it actually is coming from one particular group against another particular group. You want to know why there are so many people in America who believe that it's okay to be racist against white people? It's because of the media's treatment of these particular issues. Okay, so we're going to just read Scott Adams's full quote here, and we're going to read his entire quote based on
Hang on, I got a super chat from Jenny's getting inky with it. It's tantamount to, you let the older sibling do it to me. It's low-hanging fruit that doesn't really do what they think it does. Yeah, I agree, Jenny. And what Jenny's talking about is saying, you can say this about white people, but you can't say it about black people, sort of thing. I completely agree. It accomplishes nothing. I think I saw someone in the chat earlier say that Ben has literally been making this argument for years and years and years, and it has not changed anything. Well, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again and expecting different results. That's what Ben Shapiro's doing. I don't agree with it, even though I am acknowledging that what he's saying is technically correct. I just don't like the argument, and I don't think it's productive.
By reversing the race, quote, if nearly half of all whites are not okay with black people, according to this poll, not according to me, that's a hate group. That's a hate group, and I don't want anything to do with them. Based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to black people is to get the hell away from white people. This can't be fixed. You just have to escape. All I did in that quote is just reverse the races. That's all I did in that quote. That is a direct quote from Scott Adams. Dilbert has been canceled from every major newspaper in the United States. It's a really, really bad quote from him when it's about black people. If it were about black people treating white people, right, if the races were reversed, the entire media would be putting this guy on the front page of the 1619 Project. Right? If this were a black person saying that half of white people are not okay with black people, the best thing you can do is get away from the white people, that person is now speaking on major college campuses. That person is being given op-ed slots over at the New York Times.
I mean, if you want to keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again and continuing to lose because the argument doesn't work because it makes you sound really racist, and so you want to keep losing for the rest of your life, quite literally the rest of your life, because you've expended all your energy repeating the same argument over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, even though you know it doesn't work and it doesn't make a difference and it doesn't convince anyone of anything, when you could instead be focusing your energy on trying to find arguments that do convince people and that are effective. If you want to lose for the rest of your life, man, I guess, that's your choice. I don't think it's a good idea. It might be why people like me say that the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro are nothing more than controlled opposition. But if you want to lose for the rest of your life, that's your choice. Everyone makes choices.
That person is being given a Hulu deal. And when it comes to racism in the United States, there is, in fact, a massive double standard. Some of us believe racism is bad across the board, and then others of us on the left, we tend to believe that racism is okay, so long as that racism is being performed by people who are not white against people who are white. I'm going to give you just a quick example. So there's a video that's going around from a site called The Cut. Okay, The Cut.
This video is
a
awful.
website
I agree with this.
Has to do with it's an aspect of New York Magazine. Okay, so this is a major publication. The Cut is owned by New York Magazine. It is one of their brands, and it very often deals with minority issues. They put together a video. The video asked a bunch of non-white people, what are white people superior at? Now, again, reverse the races, and this is the most racist video, according to the left, ever made. What are black people superior at, right? Listen to the answers that these people of color give. And this is considered not only perfectly okay, but insightful and good, because white people have to challenge their own preconceived notions and biases. They have to look inside themselves for their own flaws. They have to do the work. This video is just pure racism. It is just pure unbridled racism against white people. That's all this video is. It was at The Cut. Here we go.
What are white people superior at?
What exactly are white people superior at?
They're real good at violence.
Violence, genocide. It's like stealing people's lives just because they feel like it.
If you are white and you know this is happening and you say nothing, then you're a killer too.
What exactly are white people superior at?
Insecurity, pretending, fear,
being fearful of nothing, being ignorant,
Blame.
letting their egos control their every move, superior at being
What exactly are white people superior at?
oppression, gaslighting,
lack of empathy.
intellectualizing oppression.
Did I say oppression?
What exactly are white people superior at?
Taking what's not there. Taking
Taking our ideas.
Copycatting.
gentrification.
Appropriating things that do not belong to them.
Taking over other people's cultures and making you believe that they invented it.
Maybe they're thinking of it as repurposing. It's like recycle and repurpose.
As my grandma was saying, the white folk, they'll take it if you don't copyright.
Yeah,
so
that
just to
video
go
was
through a list
awful.
of those things. It's a comedic video, guys. This is super funny. There's a bunch of people of color talking about white folks. What are white people the best at? It turns out white people are just sheer garbage. They're just the worst people in the entire universe, according to this group of people at The Cut. This is considered fine to be distributed by legacy media over at The Cut. Let me just go through the list of some of the things they said. This isn't even the entirety of the things that were said in that video. Again, none of those people are going to lose their job. Those people will be given raises. Those people are heroes of the Republic. Scott Adams will lose his entire comic strip. And there's a case to be made he should. And those people will be rewarded and they will be put over at New York Magazine, no problemo. So just a few things they say that white people are better at. Violence. And now imagine that you were asked a question about what are black people better at, and you answered violence. Your job is over. You lose your job. It's gone. I mean, you're never getting it back. If you said that what black people are better at is insecurity, ego, that black people are dicks, that's literally what somebody said on that video, that they are better at oppression, that they are better at lack of empathy, that black people have no empathy. If you said that sort of thing, like just reverse the races, if you said that sort of thing, no job for you, you're toast. If you said what black people are the best at is cultural appropriation, taking things that don't belong to, I mean, first of all, I said stealing, actual stealing. Then they said taking things that don't belong to them and culturally appropriating them. If you said any of that sort of stuff, you would be out of a job tomorrow. It is that simple. In other words, racism is totally fine with the left, but only toward one group. I shouldn't say only toward one group.
And now we're about to move into the section where I'm pretty sure Ben Shapiro read my book. And so I just want to everyone listen. My regular listeners will know exactly what I'm talking about. And I want my regular listeners and people who've read my book and listen to my podcast and have read my Substack repeatedly. I want you to chime in and let me know when it sounds like Ben Shapiro has read my book. Let me know if you hear the same thing I hear.
There are certain types of racism that are totally fine from the left, depending on whether you are higher or lower on the intersectional pyramid. So if you are a white person and you're anti-Asian, that's racism. If you're a black person, you're anti-Asian. We don't talk about that sort of stuff. If you are a white person, you're a white supremacist, and you hate Jews, we talk about that a lot. If you are a black person and you're beating the shit out of a Jew in Williamsburg, that does not get any media coverage whatsoever. We don't care about that. That is not worth discussing. We need to stop talking about that right now. All of which suggests that for the left, unfortunately, racism is not actually the problem. It is a power game, which is what it is. The left believes in a deconstructionist vision of society in which all words and all societal forces are merely guises for power.
Really?
And so when you say to yourself, wait a second, this makes no sense. And just on a pure human level, it makes no sense that you're okay with racism against white people, but you're super anti-racism against black people. That doesn't make any sense. You have to understand that for the left, it isn't about the racism, it's about the power. And they'll say this. They'll say that racism is only possible from the powerful toward the powerless. So if you have people who are less powerful, who actually hold some of the most egregious views in society, if you have those people, if those people exist, it doesn't matter. They don't have power. It's about power. It's about restoring a balanced power, and not just a balance, about restoring supreme power for certain groups at the expense of other groups in order to overturn the system generally, which means that it's all lies. It's not actually about preserving a moral system. It's about upending what they perceive to be a power hierarchy. And if you catch them in an off moment, this is precisely what they will say. It's why they add the definition of power to the definition of racism. And most of us say racism is based on your bad feelings about another group of of people based on ethnicity or race, right? That's what racism is. People on the left will say, no, it's that combined with power, which means it's really just about the power. It's not about the thought whatsoever, which is why, again, it doesn't excuse us from holding a standard as good human beings for what racism is and is not and holding everybody to that same standard. It does mean that what the left is actually doing when they do this sort of stuff is they're undermining whatever credibility they supposedly have on these issues in the first place. Now, meanwhile, speaking of people who have been ousted from polite society, libs of TikTok, Chaya Raichik.
Huh. Well, we have one Ben Shapiro simp in the chat who claims that Ben Shapiro has been saying that exact terminology for years because he doesn't watch my channel and he doesn't understand that Ben Shapiro just basically repeated word for word what I said in my book and have been saying for years. Everyone else in the chat knows where it's from, bro. The 4 goals of the woke left are: gain as much power as possible, destabilize the system, attack capitalism, usher in their Marxist utopia. Whiteness. We are one. If Ben Shapiro comes out and says that whiteness is the same thing as capitalism, we are one step away from Ben Shapiro saying whiteness is not about your skin color, it's about capitalism. One step away. One step away. And again, it doesn't bother me that Ben Shapiro obviously read my book. or read something that I wrote somewhere, because I have written about this in multiple places. I have done 8,000 videos about it, and we all know that this would not be the first time that the Daily Wire has stolen something from me that I put out there first, and then they claim that they came up with it. Matt Walsh blatantly stole cameras in classrooms from me, blatantly stole it with no credit. Ben Shapiro, let me show you this. Let me show you this one more thing, just to prove that this would actually not be the first time that that Ben Shapiro himself has taken my work and called it his own. Hang on. I just got to get it loaded. This is the about page on activelyunwoke.com. Check this out. Oh, you don't see it yet. This is the about page on activelyunwoke.com. And on this about page, I have lists of things that I've done, to include working with my community to break the story about the Burlington, Vermont schools, which we've talked about before on this channel. I've covered extensively. If you want to know more about it, you can head over to you actually go to this page and find the article about it. But I just want to play you this clip from Ben Shapiro. I just want to play this real quick. Oh, hang on. You can't see it. Hang on, we got to start again because I got to get the sound set up. I just want to play this clip from Ben Shapiro talking about my work. Hang on.
Or take Burlington, Vermont, where one teacher was talking about with a 7th grader, and a 7th grader discussed coming out in 5th grade with the help of the school guidance counselor. Now, 5th graders, that's kids who are like 11 years old, 10, 11 years old, coming out in 5th grade with the help of guidance counselors. And this is the kind of stuff that this White House is promoting. This is what they're promoting. This is why they oppose the Florida Parental Rights and Education Bill. Here is a Burlington, Vermont middle school talking about the indoctrination of small kids.
Do you feel like young kids feel seen and supported as much in elementary school as they do in middle and high school?
To answer that question, so I'm in middle school and I have a younger sibling in 4th grade, and not 100% sure what their pronouns are, but I went to the same elementary school and I felt pretty supported, and I actually, I came out in 5th grade with the help of my guidance counselor. And they were really supportive. We had a whole unit with the guidance counselor just teaching us about stuff.
Don't worry, there's no indoctrination of children. There's a 7th grader talking about how coming out in 5th grade with the help of the guidance counselor. And also, I have a 4th grade sibling who doesn't know what her pronouns are. Really well done, everyone. By the way, this is the same Burlington, Vermont school district that hosted a webinar in February of 2022 titled, "Let's Talk About Gender Identity and Expression," in which they used what they call the gender unicorn to teach middle school students. Here's a little bit of the tape.
The blue is representing the gender identity. The green, we're talking about gender expression, sex assigned at birth, physically attracted to, emotionally attracted to. There's a whole series on the gender unicorn and lessons that can be used to go over it. I learned about it in a training I went to this fall, and 2 years ago I was in it as well. This is a fabulous tool, especially for visual learners, right? For visual learners. I am a huge visual person. I don't do well with stand and lecture. Give me pictures, please.
I didn't hear any credit given there, Ben. Did anyone else hear Ben Shapiro give credit to me and my Unwoke army, who were the people that originally effing published this? So I'm just saying, this is not the first time that either the Daily Wire or Ben Shapiro himself has actually cribbed my work. Provably. And, I don't really care because, and I said this at the time, and I do genuinely mean it. I don't care about getting credit. I care about the ideas being shared, and I care about the stories being shared. And so this was a story that I originally published on my Substack, which is where they all got the clips that they got from it. This is the original story about the Burlington, Vermont schools. It was published on April 4th, 2022. And by the way, guys, if you are unfamiliar, I actually just did an update regarding the Burlington, Vermont schools today because I'm keeping an eye on them. So you can go and read that right now on my Substack. The moral of the story here is if you want to hear unwoke journalism prior to Ben Shapiro and other people at the Daily Wire and Fox News stealing it and calling it theirs, if you want to hear it when it's actually done, make sure you subscribe to my Substack. That is carlin.substack.com. It is free to subscribe to my Substack. If you want to pay for a $5 a month or $50 a year subscription to support the work I'm doing, I would really appreciate it. You know, I work for you guys. I don't work for a politically driven organization because I always want to be able to tell you the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. I always bring receipts when I do my reporting, which is why the political driven media organizations take my work because they know it's good. They know that I always back up the things I'm saying. They know that if I'm reporting something, it's rock solid. And Ben Shapiro is absolutely reading my stuff. Ben, you know it's true. It's okay. We don't need to admit it. He's absolutely reading my stuff. I'm just saying. All right, guys, that is all I have for today's stream. Now, of course, on Tuesdays, this is not the last stream I do of the day. It is but the first stream I'm doing, and I will be back at 9:30 tonight in about 3 hours from now. And we will be doing Nothing Remotely Controversial with Joshua. It's a fun show. It is news. It is psychics. It is levity. It is lighthearted. It is meant to bring some joy into this crazy, chaotic world in which we live, even if you don't believe in psychics. It's okay. You don't have to. You're still going to love Joshua. I promise. We'll be live at 9:30 tonight, and I will be back tomorrow. And of course, guys, this is the last chance to sign up for the Schools Exposed program through the crowdfunding campaign. So make sure you get all signed up if you want to join Schools Exposed. When I open the classroom tomorrow, I will be shutting off the crowdfunding campaign at some point tomorrow. I'm not sure if it's going to be in the afternoon or if it's going to be in the evening, but it will be being shut off at some point tomorrow because there's just other stuff I have to do first. And so if you want to join, make sure you get in on the Indiegogo campaign. I am training 10,000 parents and anyone else who wants to join as well. You don't have to have kids to join, to learn how to investigate the public schools, how to dig for documents in exactly the same way I do it. I have broken more stories about what is going on in the public schools than almost anyone else on the planet. And that is the truth. All right. And I'm going to teach you all my tips and tricks. And that is all part of the Schools Exposed program. We are going to build an army of people fighting back against the public schools. It's going to be so much fun. And the Daily Wire is going to steal all our stuff. And Fox News is going to steal all our stuff. But we will know who and where it came from. And it will be coming from Schools Exposed. All right, guys, that's all I've got for right now. I will see you in about 3 hours. Please mount that like button if you have not already. Please consider subscribing to the channel if I've convinced you today. That's it, guys. Take care. We'll see you in a little